Elon Musk, it looks like he's going to push through, fam, and possibly buy Twitter. You made a little comment in the thread today.
Yeah.
You want to share that comment and kind of reiterate to the people out there about Elon Musk?
Yeah. So I don't understand why people are still thinking he's going to save them. Like, I don't understand. You know what I mean? Like, to me, it's like, nobody's going to save you. Not Bernie, not Elon, not Trump. And it's the same mentality of people that think like that some superhero is going to come and save them. Mm-hmm. And the guy has ties to the military industrial complex, to the defense industry. He makes his money off of that. He also makes his money off of resource extraction and exploitation of countries in the global south. So I don't understand how people think that guy is somehow gonna like save you. Also, if the government, if these entities, if these technocratic oligarchs allow him to come in, they're not going to do that if he's going to like shut it down, if he's going to actually be fair. He's going to play within the parameters that he has to play with. And these people are just extremely naive. And I think naive is even putting it nicely. I mean, I think they're downright stupid to think that this guy is like on their side.
Yeah, I mean, he is not a self-made millionaire or billionaire, whatever you want to call him. He's had questionable ties. Yeah, questionable ties to the actual intelligence apparatus, whatnot. Starlink right now, a lot of people being feared that it's being used for military purposes for the Ukrainian militias out there, drones and whatnot, and it possibly could have been used in the past. Will coup, we want a coup, deal with it, does not care about the imperialist empire going in and stealing resource extraction. So I think he's being used as a Trojan horse of sorts to come on in, give back a little bit of the leash that they took away when they suppressed our civil liberties, and then look and has appeared to be this fighter for freedom of speech and whatnot. So to me, he's just a huge Trojan horses. And I don't believe he's a self-made billionaire. I believe he's an asset of the government. So that's just my personal opinions on Elon Musk. I am not holding my breath on what he's going to do. And I'm going to chastise and scrutinize every little move he makes from this point out. Fam.
Yeah. So
that's person who's co-opting.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like this is all part of it. This is all part of the whole game. And unfortunately, so many people don't see. Like, they like to say, oh, yes, I know we live in an oligarchy. How many times did Bernie Sanders say the word oligarchy? You know, how many times was he like talking about the billionaires and all these people? But they really don't understand what that means, or just say it because it's cool. But what it means is you don't have fair elections, number one. Unions have no power anymore. And the ones that do have power are entirely corrupted. And I can tell you that because it's the Democratic Party in California has huge support from unions. And though they use that support from unions to continue dangling carrots in front of the dumb progressives. And, you know, the Progressive Caucus literally is absolutely useless. In fact, they're very much in line with NATO. They're very much in line with sanctioning. They're very much in line with just this mediocre, not even mediocre, subpar policy, economic policy too. And they're also co-opting unions now. Like, I mean, more and more, like any sort of union movement that's been rising up. And we've had a little bit of unions coming back in terms of the people organizing and trying to bring some sort of force for the working people of X thing, whether it was the Starbucks union, whether it was the Amazon labor union that we're seeing here with Christian Smalls, or whether it's another XYZ thing that hasn't happened yet. Like, they're happening. But the problem is that because you live in an oligarchy, no matter what you do, it's past that point of trying to use unions in the labor movement to try to make changes. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing that these people are organizing and trying to make something happen. I'm saying they're going to the wrong people, and they're going and relying on the same system and the same structures, and while they should be instead trying to go outside of the system. And that's why co-option happens, because the Democrats see that this union, the Amazon labor union or the ALU, is a threat. They see that this is a threat and they're going to crush it because they can't physically, like verbally right now in the media be like, oh, we're going to oppose this thing. We're going to make them look bad because it's a bunch of working people against this billionaire Bezos. Everybody knows that Jeff Bezos is a piece of shit. And like, that's part of the popular narrative now. So they're not going to go against that. They're going to join them and they're going to take them down from the inside. And that's what we see happening. And a lot of people can say, oh, you're just being negative. You're just trashing on these people trying to do this. No, I'm not. Like, I'm trying to warn them that this is what's happening because we've seen this happen in every other facet of politics, right? And so Bernie Sanders announced, right, that he was going to go to Staten Island and New York and Richmond, Virginia, to speak with the very courageous workers from Amazon and Starbucks. They are taking on powerful corporations led by billionaires in their struggle for decent wages, decent benefits, and dignity on the job. Join us, Solidarity Sunday. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I look at that and I'm like, how can you oppose? I understand. Like, how can you oppose this guy doing this? Well, it's not that I oppose him doing it. Is that you have to ask yourselves, what does that mean under the current conditions we're living in? What does that mean under the structure where Bernie Sanders is constantly now towing the line of Democrats? Why all of a sudden this interest? Why not this interest, I don't know, Pasta, years ago when we interviewed Christian Smalls?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We interviewed him. Like, and the reason we haven't, asked him is because, well, I know the guy's, first of all, he's busy doing this, right? And I would love to have him on again, but we're busy covering other things right now. And I'm not saying this isn't important, but for me, it's kind of like, it's hard to put into words without sounding like an asshole, but it's just kind of like, you must have that opposition there. You have to have this opposition, but at the same time, that opposition cannot work within the system. And the moment it touches the system, it becomes a part of it. It's just an extension of it. I don't know if you know what I'm saying, Pasta, but
yeah, once you let the vampire in your doors and you invite him in, you've rendered him yourself powerless, but now you can't fight him back because now he's inside. The call is coming from inside the house. And I'm very curious to see how this segment would go because I want to know where, you would stand on this whole situation as this was coming out. And I knew you'd take a lot of flack. I knew you would take a lot of pushback and people going, oh, here's Fiorella just hating again. All she can do is hate, the contrarian. But I have to agree with you 1000%, fam. Not to even mention the fact is, where were they before? Where were they? AOC pretty much turned a blind eye and, turned her back on Biden. And if she was sincere about helping workers.
On Christian, yeah.
Yeah, she's turned her back on Christian, I'm sorry. If they were sincere about helping workers, they would put some legislation through really to cancel student debt, hold Biden accountable on so many things. It's like they're not going to go back and hold the people accountable. It's nice that they go out and they support these actions, if they even supported them in the get-go in the beginning and stuff like that. What really matters is when you go back to Washington. And when they go back to Washington, we know what comes from AOC and Bernie Sanders. Nothing. This is virtue signaling and stealing the thunder for your own votes.
I would say you're being kind because she actually ignored him completely. That she didn't show up to that protest that they were doing, that organizing event. She didn't show up to that. And the thing is, Bernie Sanders has for a long time been a supporter of unions. However, unions haven't achieved anything in this country because of the current system structure. So you can't just say you support unions like the Democratic Party does and like these progressives do, and then not change the structure. And the thing is, the problem is that people get really enamored by these figures and they think, oh, great, AOC is coming, which means that they're listening to us because they're coming now. Sure, she came late, but now she's showing solidarity. No, she's not showing solidarity. She's there for a photo op. She's there for an opportunity to portray herself as this progressive revolutionary, and to actually she's not actually going to do anything to support these people, to change their material economic conditions, because that's what matters. It doesn't matter how many slogans and how many actions you have. will this benefit their material conditions or working conditions under the system? Is it something that is plausible? You can have a little bit of achievement even in a system that isn't collapsed like ours is, because it damn sure isn't collapsed. But you're not, but if you're going to continue depending on the same people that are part of the machine, it's just never going to happen. So he says, you know, I'm happy to announce that AOC will be coming to visit Amazon Labor this Sunday. For the Twitter finger, solidarity is about accountability and second chances. The only narrative that should matter is bringing people together. Yes, that's all nice and dandy, but like, that's not where we're at right now. Like bringing people together. Yes, bringing working people together. Politicians are not on your side. Nothing is going to come from these politicians. It's going to come from the people. That's why they came to you, because it's the people that are doing this. It's not them. And when you give the glory to them, and when you make this movement, a labor movement, political by bringing AOC and Bernie Sanders, you are pushing aside other people that, you know, may not be the quote unquote leftists that love Bernie Sanders and AOC, but that are still equally suffering under the same conditions. The labor movement has to be nonpartisan. It has to be entirely nonpartisan. It's got to be from a worker's perspective, not from politicians' perspective. You don't put politicians out there to speak on your behalf. You have them begging for attention. That's not what's happening here. It's the other way around. And this is how they co-opt movements, because well-intentioned people think, well, if I get these high-profile politicians to pay attention, maybe they'll make something happen in Washington. But it's not working that way anymore. It hasn't worked that way in a long time.
And I think you have to be loyal to the people who walk the walk and talk the talk. I mean, for an example, let's say NATO, right? For those inside of Congress who have been on the anti-NATO train from the get-go, if there's a NATO summit and you want to do a pushback against NATO, of course, you bring them in, because from the get-go, they've been there. They've been fighting. They've been trying to push legislation. They've been trying to cut off NATO and stuff. That the same should apply for the labor movement. If somebody's been in it from the get-go, Bernie Sanders has only been in it when it comes to virtue signaling and vocalizing it out in a speech and stuff like that. You have to do the work in Washington. They shouldn't even gotten an invitation. And I'm very curious, fam. This person, Andy Lee Parker, who said, I guess if you don't mind appropriating your hard work for her own political gain, we should have nothing to say about it either. How have you witnessed other people who've been critical of what Christian Smalls is doing here? And how have they come up?
Yeah, a lot of people are critical. A lot of people who saw through the bullshit, or, you know, of the squad, and who are questioning, who are not really there with Bernie and who don't think he's going to do anything, have seen through this. Like they're very cautiously saying, okay, we're supporting you. Like, we're happy that you did this. You know, we're happy that you went on Fox. We're happy that you went on CNN. We're happy that you went everywhere to put out your message. But like, look at what's happening here. And that's the other side of it that I'll talk about, I guess, later, is like the establishment, the political establishment, the oligarchs, the people in power will never allow somebody to be elevated to that profile without having any sort of caveat. We learned this with AOC. Yeah. The whole media loved her. Like they were so focused on her, and a lot of us brushed that aside and said, well, maybe it's because just this one. No. That person is not going to be the revolutionary, because they will never be uplifted by the machine if they're a threat. If they're a real threat, they're not going to be uplifted by the machine. So what these people are doing is that they're going to try to co-opt this entire thing. And if you're not careful, and if you think they're your friends, you're going to go right along with them. And that's something that I wouldn't like to see. But that seems to me the direction that this is headed. And I would love to be proven wrong on this.
Yeah. And I think when you said the partisan part, like, once again, you know, there's people who work at Amazon that are conservative, and, you know, people that are not just on playing team sports, whatnot. And I understand when Christian Smalls is faced with the choice of, okay, let me elevate the movement. It's going to help me if I have Bernie Sanders or an AOC there to help elevate the movement, versus, hey, this is not going to help me elevate the movement. In fact, this is going to set us back right now, because it's going to turn it into, one, a partisan issue. Number two, it's going to give validity to people who weren't there fighting this fight with us from the get-go. And that's the thing that's the most important to me, is that they didn't walk the walk. So, I mean, what's next? Christian Smalls is going to run for Congress and not even take on the election situation. Is that what we expect now? I mean, the guy has done some amazing things, and I tip my hat off to him in his fight. But this move here in particular, it's like, dude, how could you not see this coming? How could you not? You have to take people on who are worthy of standing with you, who've been fighting with you from the get-go, not people who are going to show up once there's time for a curtain call and you know, campaign off your thunder. It's going to make them look pro-labor when, you know, in reality, they were just not there for the game. They didn't show up.
Yeah. And I mean, as Oz can show these pictures, it's just pictures. Oz, you can just show them, you know, that they're over there taking pictures of Bernie and AOC. And yeah, is that something that maybe a lot of people are going to be like, oh, cool. What is the union? You know, like what Amazon is unionizing. It's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. I'm not trying to say it's a bad thing for these workers to come together and demand better wages, demand better conditions. I think that's what more people should be doing. The problem is you're relying still on these politicians to do something. You're relying on them, to their image, and they're going to come to you with pretty words. They're going to come to you and offer you the sun, the moon, and the stars. They're going to come to you and they're going to put you on every mainstream media show and every mainstream media outlet because they want that. They want to kill that movement from a workers' movement. They want to turn it into another fun.
Did we lose Fee? Is Fee frozen?
Raising mechanism for the Democratic Party. The fascist party is absolutely not workers for all the time. Am I good now?
Yeah, you were cut. Okay. You got cut off about a minute ago. So, but then it like corrected itself. So
yeah, so I was just saying, like, they're gonna offer you the sun, the moon, and the stars. They're gonna offer you everything, but that the reality is, once they have you there, they're gonna turn your movement into an extension of the Democratic Party, into a weapon that they can use to fundraise off of you, because they're going to be able to say, oh, we stand with unions and workers. We support them. Republicans don't vote for us. But then on the back end, you have the disastrous foreign policy. You have the going, you know, the moonwalking on a bunch of things like healthcare, like the student debt and all that stuff. And like, it's kind of crazy for me to talk about this stuff because, and this is what I was trying to like verbalize before, when we're living in an oligarchy and like we live in a country that is funding Nazis in Ukraine, that is trying to dismiss the very real problems that exist with that paramilitary fascist regime. You in this country that literally has zero problem keeping people in debt, has zero problem, you know, walking back on things. The surveillance state is at its highest level. They're censoring everything. They're only allowing one narrative. And you think that that's the people who work for this same institution and who fundraise with the same Democrats are going to somehow save the workers' movement? No. Like, it's crazy to me.
And the piece of legislation that AOC and Bernie Sanders are supporting when it comes to labor is the PRO Act. Christian Smalls should look at the PRO Act and take a look at the union busting, anti-rally, protest poison pills that are in that bill, and then question AOC and Bernie Sanders about that. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
that was the Progressive Caucus.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's just, you know what I'm saying? If I had Bernie Sanders in front of me, there'd be a million questions, not like come out here and support us and stuff like that. You have to be careful who you let inside. Like I said, you let the vampire in. If you invite the vampire in, you render yourself powerless. Now all your tricks don't work against him. And now they got you from the inside. Bernie Sanders and AOC did not do enough to get on that stage. And it could be more of a negative thing than it could be a positive thing. And I can understand how people would look differently at Christian Smalls for this. He might have won some of those virtue signaling progressives over and whatnot, but you're going to win them over anyways. Now, serious people are going to look at you and like, really? You just did all that shit and you let these schmucks on stage? Okay. Yeah. I don't know if we're on the same page, Mr. Christian Smalls. Thank you, but no, thank you. So
I just wanted to also point out a little bit of the whole media aspect, right? So he was on the Daily Show, and it's good to bring your message, this message that, you know, to these people that don't really hear it, right? They don't generally hear this type of rhetoric. And, you know, he talked about saying the first thing we're fighting for is job security. They hire and fire people all the time. There's people that are homeless and people in shelters working there that we help. It's absolutely true. I mean, that's how they treat Amazon. And those are the things people need to know about. And so on the surface, it looks like this is a great thing for people. You can show 12 that this is a great thing for people, that people are like that the rest of the world that doesn't pay attention is becoming aware of this, right? That they're being able to see the things that are going on in Amazon. But you have to understand, why are they doing that? If the Daily Show, like who are their bosses, right? Why would they be allowed this to happen? It's kind of like they're saying, oh, let them play house. Well, we'll still maintain control of this. We don't have time to play these theatrical games anymore. We have to really go to the jugular. And the problem with the progressive movement in the United States is that they don't go to the jugular. They still try to reform things. They still try to work within the system. And this is a stage where you cannot work within the system. Like it's just not going to happen. 13, you can talk about how CBS has been covering, and mainstream media have been covering, you know, the resurgence of unions and the fight against Amazon. I mean, this is something true. And this is kind of what I pointed out. They talked about the massive Amazon warehouse on Staten Island that employs 8,300 people, and how they voted to unionize, which is what Christian Smalls was doing. And this is the first union in Amazon history. And the Teamsters now vow to unionize Amazon from coast to coast. The thing is, the Teamsters are one of the most corrupt and large unions in existence in the United States. I mean, they're hardcore Democratic Party operatives, and they're part of the whole thing. They're part
and
of
not Jimmy Hoffa's Teamsters.
I mean, it's a joke, right? Yeah. So there's a reason why the New York Times has been covering this. You know, the New York Times, really, all these papers and these mainstream media, legacy media, sources. I mean, they've all been covering this. And then you have the Teamsters again, who went to meet with Christian Smalls. Of course they did, because they want in on this. They want to see how they can co-opt this thing. And literally, you don't have a say. For example, if you wanted to, I don't know, not be vaccinated or something, and you worked for one of these companies and one of these people was your union member, I guarantee you that they would still make you get vaccinated. I guarantee you that they would still follow status quo, because that's what it's supposed to be. You can only rebel so much as you're allowed to within the constraints of the system. And also he was on TMZ. I'm just stating, the things. He was on TMZ. He was on CNN Plus, the now RIP CNN Plus. He was on Mehdi Hasan. Mehdi Hasan, our great friend Mehdi Hasan from MSNBC. So I'm sorry, guys, but these people that completely have vilified and made Russians and made anybody that's against the NATO narrative to be the villain are not going to plaster people they see as a threat. They're not going to support things that are actual working class led issues. They're just not. So they're co-opting it. And this is just yet another playbook. So he said about, what happened on Sunday, brought him to the trenches today. Solidarity Sunday today might have to become a union holiday the way we rallied. Just to let everyone know who have Twitter fingers all day, the ALU, the Amazon Labor, is and remain independent. No need to have panic attack. We're in solidarity with the working class through and through. Yes, but those politicians are not a part of it. And the vast majority of the union leadership from the Teamsters that is trying to talk to you aren't a part of it either. So the last thing I just want to say on this section is note to the most gullible group of people in politics, politicians, corporate media, and a party that's done nothing more than destroy the working class, suddenly coming in for photo ops on the heels of a union victory isn't solidarity. It's co-option, and they're achieving it. So
yeah, the Democratic Party hasn't had a serious piece of legislation that's been pro-labor since the 1970s. Let's be honest here. Since the 1970s, they abandoned labor a long, long time ago. So to act like they're for labor right now, once again, it's different than their actions when they come on and make a couple speeches and you know, when Bernie Sanders says, and it's the Koch brothers, it's like, it's one thing to get up there, yell, scream, spit, and say what you got to say. It's another thing to go back and do the work in Washington. And if you were serious about it, you'd have some serious good legislation for labor, and you would be touting it every single day, and you would be putting your other members on Congress on blast for not supporting it. That's not what you're doing. You're just virtue signaling and getting a shot that's going to help you out for your campaign coming up. Okay, you're doing PR right now. You're not doing any serious work, and that's all I got to say about that. And I'm just very surprised that Christian Smalls has followed for this shit. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the thing with the labor movement, Pasta, is that the labor movement here, and you can see this from LA, right? From our work with the activists in LA. They don't pay attention to politics outside of that thing that they know. Mm-hmm. They don't. So they don't see the big picture connections that would allow you to understand, oh yeah, these people are just using us, because they only look at like what's happening within the sphere of what they're working on. And so the problem is when they don't have people that can tell them, hey, no, this is bad, these people are using you, then what ends up happening is they end up getting co-opted. And so that's what I see this going. I hope I'm wrong. I hope, they miraculously keep their own entity and that they are able to see through it. But honestly, like, that's just wishful thinking, I think, in this regard. So
agreed.